it's Valerie with My Stitch and Dollyverse. In today's video, we're going to be sewing some aprons for our dolls. Let's go. One way we can add some holiday decor to our dolls and doll collection is to make these cute little aprons. Nothing says holiday, baking cookies, all that kind of fun stuff, than wearing like a festive apron. I wanted to make some for some dolls today. Different size dolls, different size apron. Really, it could apply to any doll. We're going to use upcycle material. We're going to use material that is festive and part of like the holiday spirit. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe and stick around. We talk dolls and doll sewing and doll news and all the things dolls.
So let's just jump right into it. And this is the apron I'm going to be using as my pattern. It fits my smart doll. I'm not sure where I got it. I think secondhand. And I am just tracing around it to create my pattern. And I'm going straight up because of the gathers on the waistband there. So it's going to lay out even further. Marking where the waist is. I'm just kind of eyeballing the different pieces. And then when I'm done, I'm going to cut it out and draw it, straighter. True it up is the right word for it. And I'm tracing around the top too. And I look at the pattern too when it is sewn and see, that it isn't bagged out or anything. It's just serged right up to the edge. I'm measuring the tie and I'm going to add more to it because it was not very long. It wasn't long enough. I think it was made for a Barbie, but it's actually going to be used for my smart doll. So I'm going to guesstimate at 18 inches. I might make it even smaller than that, but at least 18 inches. Finished, and I write that on the pattern so that I don't lose that measurement. It's going to be right there on the pattern at all times whenever I make it. And I also wrote the height of it, which was 1/4 inch, and I made sure to write finished. So it's not what I'm going to cut out 1/4 inch, but I'm going to make it a strap that is twice turned like a bias tape, which you could also use a bias tape. So I'm showing you that it is serged right up to the edge. So when I cut it out, that is the exact measurement that I cut out. I'm not adding any seam allowance or anything like that. It's right up to that edge. And I am folding the paper in half. I'm using just scrap paper that I have from the printer and folding it in half and cutting it out evenly. If you fold it, you will know that you are going to get both sides the same. And obviously, too, you can only make, or you could also just make a half of a pattern and just put it up to the fold. But I like to make the full pattern sometimes because then I can see exactly how much fabric I'm going to need and have it opened up like that. Same with the top. I fold it in half, making sure to get it even. So when you cut out the pattern, it's going to be the same on both sides. Pretty simple pattern to recreate and knock off. And there you have it. You have the two pieces. And I'm not making a waistband either pattern because I just do the measurements. It's easier that way. And I'm going by the selvage edge. Not all scrap fabric has the selvage, obviously. But with a cotton, it's pretty easy to find, the straight of grain. And you're making something so small that it's not going to stretch or cause any problem if you don't cut it on the straight of grain anyways. And I didn't even use pins. I could have pinned it on there, but since I can hold it, I just like to hold it and cut it really quickly. And I'm just doing one layer for the top because I'm actually going to finish mine off with some trim. The pattern that I had, it had rickrack as the trim, but I'm going to use lace. And I will show you the technique that I use to finish off the edge like that. Especially if you don't have a serger, you don't necessarily have to serge the edge. It's totally up to you. I'm going to create this bias, although I think this is cut on the grain. It's not cut on the bias. It'll still work out because I'm just going to use it for a straight waistband anyways. And this is the lace that I'm going to use. And I'm going to put it on what looks like the wrong way. But once I sew it on, you fold it back over and it finishes off that edge like that. And you don't have to worry about, any kind of hem. It basically finishes itself. If you don't have to do the sewing twice, I wouldn't do it. I'm going to sew this on and then I'm going to turn it, and that's going to be my hem. So you could do a running stitch by hand, or you could sew it on the machine, which I'm showing you here. And this is the top bib part of the apron. I am going right up to that corner, stopping about a 1/4 inch before I get to the edge, and I'm going to turn. And you could just make that lace do what you want it to do and really push it in there. And of course you can always baste it in place too before you machine sew it, so you know it's going to lay down correctly. But this lace is very large, and I thought it was easy to manipulate and hold on to. And I'm going to go down the other side, and I'm just going to cover 3 sides, since one of the sides is going to be the waist of the apron. I'm going right up to the edge, and you put your needle down, lift up the foot, and turn it, and just make that lace go where it needs to go. You could just hold it down. You can pin it down if you need to, but honestly, it's just so bulky and big, it's easier to just hold it by your hand while you sew it on. And it has its own hem to it as well, so you can just sew along that edge. And I'm going to cut the little edges, the corners, so that it's not so bulky. When we turn it to the other side, it's kind of bulky right there. So I'm just going to clip that off. And then when we turn it over, it'll lay down a lot nicer. And always press. That is like, that's almost like a top stitch in itself. It really helps lay things down nicely, especially if it's cotton. Pressing it really works well. And I'm going to make the bias. I actually have a bias maker, but I'm doing this by hand to show you. You just fold in the edges where they meet in the middle, and then you're going to fold that in half. And yes, it's not on the bias. It is on the straight of grain, but it still works the same. And you just work it through a little bit at a time. And it turns out so cute. These are 2 different calico prints that I got secondhand. And then I'm going to create a running stitch, which is going to be the gather stitch. So the longest stitch on your machine, or about a 4, not quite to the 5. Sometimes that's just too long. It doesn't work right. Fold it in half and find the middle. And I'm going to gather it a little bit on each side. I didn't want to gather the lace. I'm going to tuck that in a different way because it's so large. And I need part of that waistband to actually be for her neck, to tie around her neck. So I cut off a piece of that to work for her neckline. And then I'm gonna just top stitch that on. Always try it on too. Here's my smart doll. She's so cute. To see where you want that to end. I didn't want the apron to go around the back side of her. And I wanted to also measure it with the bib to see how big it was going to be and how that was going to lay on her. I'm matching up the white lace on the side as well, and just making a little note or a little pin there so I know that's where the blue has to end and the lace has to begin, so that it'll match up with the top. And I just kind of tucked it inside that waistband and then top stitched that down. And then you can just top stitch the top of the bib down. So simple and so cute. Oh, I just love it so much. And then the same with the tie around the neck. I'm just going to clip it on the edge to make it not fray, and then at an angle, and then clip it in half so that each piece can go on the sides like that. And here it is. Isn't that so sweet? Oh, I love her so much. So cute and such a simple project.
So thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and stick around, and I will see you next time. Bye.